Welcome to the Upreneur podcast for the University of Entrepreneurs. I am your host, Jeremy Straub. Good morning. I'm here with Jon Jay, Major League Baseball player, Hall of Fame for University of Miami, which I think just got inducted recently, right?
Yeah, a couple years back. Pretty cool.
Nice. World champion. You were with the Cards in 2011 when they won the series. Along with that, you hit what I look as a pretty impressive piece, 10 years in the league. Only 6% of the players hit that. So congratulations. I'm excited for you sitting down with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me today, and I'm excited to share some of my story.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And you also are a husband, been married to, I think it was a college or high school sweetheart?
Yeah, my college sweetheart.
Yeah, which is crazy for somebody who's been professional athletes for 10 years. And you have two twin daughters and one on the way, right?
Yeah, we have one on the way, yeah.
Awesome, man. Congratulations. Seems
Thank
like you've been busy.
Yeah, a little busy here and there, but we make the time for it.
So first thing I ask you with regarding just any player, especially in the majors, I mean, you're playing 162 games, 180 days a year, and you've done that now for 10 years, which is an unbelievable feat. Talk to me a little bit about how you've been able to keep that longevity physically and mentally. What do you think it is that you kind of got you to be able to last 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm that product right now of, having been 10 years in the big leagues and having gone to the minor leagues and all that. But, it starts to childhood, I think, it starts with work ethic. I got to see my grandparents, lay a great example for me. They migrated from Cuba in the 60s and in light, to do better for their family. And I'm a byproduct of that. So I had a great example of work ethic. I saw my grandfather get up every single morning, go to work, and do everything he could to provide for his family. And I've kind of taken that same work ethic since I was a kid and applied it to, school, sports, just my life in general. And, that's something I started picking up when I was younger. And
so you got a lot of people that have work ethic, but I mean, and even just to get to the majors, even if you just got up for a cup of coffee, even if you just got to hit the majors and just even get to play one game is a childhood dream for many people. But 10 years is nuts, dude. Let alone just doing a whole season with 162 games in 180 days. How'd you keep your body in shape for those 10 years? Like, was there changes over those 10 years that you had to worry about physically just to be able to keep playing at that level? Let's just stick with the physical side first, and then I'd love to get into the mental side. But as you look at what kind of got you in the majors 10 years ago to as you evolve through that, have you had to change your regimen on how you kind of stay in shape during that time?
Yeah, I've definitely changed a lot of things. It started for me when I was a kid. I started working out when I was a freshman in high school. I'd work out before school, and that's when I kind of started seeing the benefits of working out. I wasn't the fastest kid. I wasn't blessed with all the talent in the world, especially growing up in South Florida where we had so many great prospects and high school players and just baseball in general.
Yeah.
So for me that's when it started, was working out before school, and then I started seeing the differences, and then always just trying to learn more and more. And then I got to go to the University of Miami, and before that even at Columbus High School, very competitive high school for sports, for baseball in general, and especially, and that's where I got to learn all the lessons that helped me get to that 10 years. Perseverance, hard work. My freshman year, I made the freshman team.
Yeah.
Where most guys are making JV or making varsity, and I had to sit back and say, okay, if I want to be on JV, if I want to be on varsity, what do I got to do? I looked at myself realistically in the mirror and said, all right, I need to get faster, I need to train better, and that's where I kind of started that journey of self-evaluation and what do I need to get better every single day. And another thing for me is I was never really worried about results. I was always worried about the process, and that's something you'll hear me talk a lot about is, if you worry about the process, the results will come. And a lot of times we worry about results. And that's why when you've asked me these questions, I like to take it back to that, because that's what's really laid the foundation for all this. So for me, to get to the 10 years, it's the same attitude I had when I was 14 years old, where I didn't make a team as a freshman, then sophomore year I made the varsity team. And then, you start off as a bench player, then you start playing a little bit more, you get a little bit of taste of that. And then I got to start as a junior, did pretty well. Yeah. And then the next goal is, all right, let me get a college scholarship. So I was able to do that and go to UM. And then it's just been step by step the same way. So to get to the time I'm at right now with the 10 years in the big leagues, it's just been a lot of that, a lot of self-evaluation, a lot of living in the moment, and not getting caught up with everything going on.
So talk about that a little bit. So did you always have like your goal? Was it just to play for the U, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, I'm playing for the U. Maybe my goal should be trying to get to the minors. And then it just kind of inched forward a little bit every time? Or was it kind of in your mind when you were playing T-ball as a kid at 5 going, I want to be in the majors? I mean, did it kind of grow as an evolution of a dream of yours? Or did you always know that you wanted to be in the majors?
It definitely grew as an evolution of mine. I think it's something that's helped me get to this point now where I've always just lived in the moment, day to day. And at that point, like I said, in my freshman year, when I didn't make the JV or varsity, my main goal was just to make JV the next year and to play. And I kind of took my step by step. But with all that in mind, as a kid, I always knew that I was going to be able to make an impact with something. Just the way I enjoyed, being around other kids, and just the way I enjoyed, kind of organizing groups and, being the guy to be like, oh, let's go play this or let's go do this, and kind of, taking that almost like a leadership role as a kid. So that just helped me, translate as I went on, and it just really helped me, continue to go to where I got to right now with this.
Well, I think you bring up a good point. So I might script the movie, but there was a movie, I think it was Any Given Sunday, and it talked about a series of inches, and you got to fight for 1 inch. And many people kind of get stuck on this big long-term vision of what they want instead of worrying about what they're going to do the next 10 minutes and trying to be really good in that moment for the next 10 minutes. And for the people that just continuously focus in on being very good at what they're doing right now and worrying about the short-term pieces to be as effective as they can be, those are the ones that tend up being, it's not saying you don't have a vision long-term and you don't have an idea of it, but 99% of your time is focused in on what are you doing in your workout right now. It's focused in on you, okay, I need to make sure that I'm put in the best position to get a starting position here on that side. And then opposed to, I'm going to hit 10 years in the league and that's my goal on that side. Where do you think that comes from? Because, I mean, Miami is glitz and glam. Everybody, wants to be rich, and it's a very place that's built on materialism a lot of times. Yet you were kind of not focused in on that part. Does that come back to an upbringing? Does it come back to maybe some coaches in the past? Where do you think that comes from?
It definitely comes up to first my upbringing, and then definitely coaches. I always say I'm at this position now, but I didn't get here by myself. There's been hundreds and hundreds of people in the Miami community, in the St. Louis community, just in different communities that have helped me at different times. And getting back to what we were talking about, my goals were, as a kid, my only goal was to go to UM. Like, I wanted to go to UM. That was the biggest thing for me. I didn't dream about the major leagues. I didn't dream about anything else. So for me to actually go to UM and get a scholarship was almost like a relief. That was like, all right, I got this far.
Made it.
I made it. And I kind of always understood, and I took to heart when people would say, and I say the same things these days. We're like, hey, not everyone's going to make it.
Yeah.
So I always kind of looked at myself and was like, all right, now everyone's going to make it. What am I going to do if I don't make it?
Yeah.
So that's what helped me take school seriously. It helped me. I remember being a senior at Columbus, and I'd have friends tell me like, "Hey, why are you studying for this math test? You're going to UM already." I'm like, "No, because I take pride in this. I want to graduate with a 3.3, and I want to be able to, not just slack off for a whole year, and I want to continue to learn and better myself." So that was something that and I think you said it best, where putting myself in a position to succeed, to really succeed. It's like seeing the long-term vision on everything instead of being short-minded. And I think that's something that, growing up in Miami, it's a fast pace, and, you want to see results right away. You want to see, the cars, you want to see just all these different things. And I was, I had great people around me, my family, just saying, hey, just stay in your lane, stay focused. And all these things can happen, but, you got to take care of all these little first steps. You can't just jump from here to here. And, it's always been about the long-term plan. And I've tried to do that with, with everything, with my family, with business, with myself, just my mental health, just everything, just having a long-term plan with everything, and not thinking just about tomorrow.
Yeah, and I think you brought up a really good point earlier around process and systems. I've referred in this podcast a couple times to a book by Bill Walsh. It was The Score, Take Care of Itself. And so when he was coaching the Niners, he just focused in on worrying about what were the systems I'm putting in place, what's the culture I'm building, what's all the steps that'll lead to results, but he didn't care what the scoreboard said. And so what I hear you and, I have a partner of mine in my business, Roy Perez, who we're both friends with. He's the same way in our business. I'm not awesome at focusing on systems. I'm pretty on the vision and the strategy. He's very good at laying out and process mapping that. And when I look at your career, so you're 10 years you're there, there's times where you've been early on where you're starting, and then they bring in a guy 2-3 years younger that looks like it's going to be the starter, and then next thing you know, you're taking over for him and starting again. And that happened twice from when I was reading back for you on your career. What is it? Is it the process or systems that you were just so able to be consistent and to kind of beat out what would be maybe some of the younger guys, and you kind of came in right when the quants were against the scouts, and it was right when Moneyball was coming in, and there was all the numbers, and so these people that had these stats that looked better than you, yet you were still able to perform more consistent on that part. Where do you think that consistency comes from? Is it the processor systems? Is it your training regimen? Is it just a matter of just kind of your mental focus? If you kind of look back and say, compared to some others that looked on paper that they were going to be awesome, but the consistency you had allowed you to succeed, where does it come from?
Yeah, it goes back to Columbus, not making the team as a freshman and kind of seeing guys, at that point you're 14 years old, your body's going to grow, you're going to get faster, you're going to get bigger, but guys being content on being, I made JV or I made varsity right now. It's like, yeah, this is cool right now, but we're continuing to grow. There's people all over the world continuing to grow, and where do you want to get from there? And I think that's been just a story of my life, and I love it. I wouldn't change it any other way because it really makes me appreciate things, and it really makes, when I go to sleep at night, I know, like, man, I look in the mirror and know, like, I've worked as hard as I could every single day to get to the point I'm at. And that's kind of what guided me during those moments, when they would bring in another player. I'm all about winning. I want to win. We grew up in an era where, like, winning was everything, and that's what I want to be considered a winner. I want to be considered a good businessman, a good person. Yeah. And it's not about, myself just saying, I'm the all-star on the team. Like, I'd rather be the guy behind the scenes and win a championship. And, luckily I was able to do that. And that was always been my focus. So, I was able to win a championship my second year. I mean, you get a taste of success. I mean, win a World Series. And you want to keep doing that. And you see what comes with that. You see the respect you get from players and just people. Yeah, it might not be a monetary thing, but it's something that I appreciate when people respect you, knowing that, hey, you worked hard and that's the reason you're a champion. So, I was always focused on the team and understanding what I brought to the table. I know things that my skill set isn't really measured by a lot of maybe analytics or maybe different things, but I knew what I brought to the table, and I believed in it. And I think that's something that most successful people, they really believe in what they're doing. And as far off as it might sound, or as people might not understand what they're saying, but when you truly believe in yourself, you're going to go forward. And that's what I just always did, continue to believe in myself. And like anything, I've always tried to just be a good person, that translates to being a good teammate, being a good coworker. And if I can be the best person I can every single day, and then I know I've done what I need to do, and I'll get an opportunity. And instead of wasting time complaining about the opportunities, I'll just be ready for it. And during the season, there'd be times where I wouldn't play for weeks, and I'm hitting every day after, or working out early and making sure I stay in shape so that one time I do get to play, I can't afford to say, like, my hamstring's sore today, and that's the reason I didn't get a hit. It's like, no, you got to get a hit so you can play tomorrow. So I've kind of always loved that pressure, and Tony La Russa always talked about pressure and using pressure as your friend. Yeah. And when you slow everything down, it can bring pressure can bring things out of you that you had no idea you were capable of, and that's something that I really learned from him early on in my career, and it's something that I've been able to continue with.
So, expand a little bit on that. How did you keep pressure where it doesn't stifle you? Where some people, under pressure, it doesn't motivate them, but it hinders them, then opposed to making it a motivation. Can you talk a little bit about your mindset of how you use pressure to be something that pushes you forward, then opposed to you stopping you to go forward?
And I think, so pressure has a lot to do with preparation. And I think preparation breeds confidence. And, so I know if I'm facing a left-handed pitcher and, he's got a really good curveball or whatnot, well, I'm going to do everything I can that day to prepare for that left-handed pitcher, so that when I get in that moment and the bright lights are on and there's 40,000 people and you need to come up with a game-winning hit, what calms me down and allows me to use the pressure, as my advantage is just understanding, like, on deck, I'm taking a deep breath and I'm saying, you know what? I've done everything I need to do today. I've hit sliders, I hit fastballs. I'm prepared for this guy. I've watched film. I've done everything that I can control. Yeah. So now I'm just going to go out there and have fun. And if I fail, I'm going to come back and try it again. And that's something that I've, applied to business, family, just life, just everything. And, it's just a common thing. Like, hey, give it your all. It didn't work out. All right, let's go back to the drawing board. And what can I do different next time?
Yeah. No, and I think for some reason people underestimate the idea of preparation. Like, people have always commented about how I'm a good public speaker, but honestly, I just prepare the hell out of more than anybody else, and I've practiced it so many times that then it comes across good. I'm just as nervous, just as uncomfortable, I'll say just as many ums and ramble like everybody else. It was just a preparation piece. And I remember I was watching a TV show, I think it's called Gangsterland, where they show like gangs, or Gangland from like different cities. But it was one gang from Chicago, and I never thought I'd quote a motivational thing from a gang in Chicago. But it talked about the 5 Ps was like their quote for this gang, and it was proper preparation prevents poor performance. And that just always stuck in my head that I had to make sure I was more prepared. And for some reason, business, people don't always prepare for meetings. They don't always prepare for going in and talking to somebody. They just feel like because you're just doing everything all day. And when you're playing as many games as you're playing, you can easily get lost in not preparing as much because you're like, it's 162 games. What's another game? Or it's a pitcher. I've already batted a bunch of left-handed pitchers with curveballs. I don't need to prepare any more than I normally do. And I think people minimize the confidence level that gives you going in, so you're mentally better for it. You talked about winning championships. I want to get into that a little bit. So you were with St. Louis when they won in 2011, and when the picture of the White House, you threw up the U. So clearly you're proud of the University of Miami there. But talk a little bit about that actual experience. Like at that point, were you sitting here going, like, I can't believe, I grew up in Miami and I'm doing this and now I'm sitting here. Did it hit you? Did it hit you when you went home that night? Did it hit you right when you won this series? Just talk about emotionally what that was like for you to be part of that team at that time.
Yeah, well, I think it still hits me to this day.
Yeah.
I think about it every single day and how much my life has changed because of it. And just, I think about it literally every single day. And it still hasn't sunk in and hit. But, for myself, I think the cooler thing with it is just the story behind it where we were 11 and a half games out of it in September. Everyone thought we were out. We obviously had a great talented team. Just things weren't, we weren't playing the way we should have and stuff. And I'll never forget, we lost a series to the Mets. And Chris Carpenter, one of our leaders, another guy that was able to establish 10 years and was always just such a great leader for me on just so many different aspects. But he called a team meeting and said, hey, listen, let's look around this room. And when you look at that room now, there's various Hall of Famers, which is it's pretty cool.
It's awesome.
And, he said, look, we've worked too hard since in training, since the off season, to just mail it in the last month of the season. We have too much talent on the team. Let's just go out there, and like we've been talking about, focus day to day. Let's just be the best group that we can be day to day, and let's see what happens. And next thing you know, it's like the last day of the season, and we're getting into the playoffs as a wild card team.
Yeah.
And, then we knock off a unbelievable Phillies team. We play the Brewers, and then we're in the World Series.
I'm a Phillies fan, so I'm pretty bummed about that.
And that was a great experience for me. It's my first playoff series, and I'm playing in Philadelphia, which everyone knows that the sports fans there. It's awesome.
That's where I grew up, yeah.
So it's like...
You don't like being a away team there.
And, the team's coming off of, I think it was 108 wins that year. I don't know what it was, and, here we come, and it's a huge battle, and fans. And I remember I started off the first day I didn't get a hit. I remember we're facing Roy Halladay, rest in peace. And this guy Doc, he's a Hall of Famer, and I'm facing him in the playoffs, and like he's just, I didn't have a chance against him. And, to come back the next day, I remember sitting back at home, and after the game, you stay up all night because you have so much adrenaline and all this, and like sitting back and be like, all right, this is the same game we've been playing. Let's just slow it down. And then thinking about past experiences, I was able to win in high school. So thinking about like, all right, as an 18-year-old at the highest pressure moment at that time as a senior, I was able to help a team win a state championship. All right, now I'm prepared for this. Let me just do the same things I did then. Same thing with where we were able to go to Omaha and I was able to play a part in that. And I was like, so I brought myself back to those experiences and it allowed me to calm down. It's the same way as like, hey, these moments prepared me for this moment that I'm having now. And, I was able to do well, but...
they have a team, like a team psychiatrist or somebody that comes in and talks to you or somebody that's in the at least positive reinforcement for you, or they talk about how you should just kind of imagine in your head. Is there any psychological pieces? And I know other teams do, and they have people tied to it. But during that time period where you got some momentum, right? You all of a sudden a wild card. You're starting to feel it in the games. You're starting to get a little bit like, okay, wait, we're actually doing all right. Is there somebody that's helping do it, or is it mostly you reflecting back on your own?
Oh, there's a little bit of everything, and that's why I had some great teammates as well. And that's where we had a great group of leaders that would really lead us. And I was a youngster with all these guys that really showed me how to do things the right way. Hall of Famer and Yadier Molina and Albert Pujols and Skip. I mean, the list goes on and on. So we did a great job, and I think that's a big difference maker in whether it's the business world or sports is the cohesiveness of teams and groups. And we had a really tight group where if an older player saw me down a little bit because a play happened, they'd come up and pick you right back up.
Awesome.
Rafael Furcal would come up to me all the time, like, hey man, like on the next one you're gonna do this and do that, and like so I started learning on how to really help other guys, and that's something I think you see on championship teams. You just see the joy, and you're like, man, that team looks like they really get along. Like
Yeah.
You watch the Lakers win the championship, with the Heat, and even the Heat was a great team, but you see the Lakers too, and you're like, both teams, you're watching them like, man, these guys are having so much. It looks like their locker room is so much fun. Like you want to know what's going on in the locker room, like man, or what are they doing at dinner in a normal season and stuff like that. So I think that's something that's huge and it's pivotal and it's something that can't be measured. There's not an analytic for that. There's not a we can go to the best schools in the world and have a business degree from here or there and take an entrepreneurship class from whatever school it is. But if you don't have those people skills, if you can't get along with others, and that really doesn't matter. And that's something that I've really seen from my experiences in meeting people from all walks of life.
Yeah. How would you describe the culture of that team?
It was great. It was everybody worked. Everyone, like if you looked at that team, the 25-man roster, you could do a checklist like, oh, did this guy get here early? Yes, he did. Did he go to the weight room? Yes, he did. Did he go watch film? Yes, he did. Yeah. And we had a great culture where no one had to say anything about it. It was almost like you didn't want to disappoint your brother next to you with not being prepared and messing up a play and then them saying like, hey, Jay, you missed a fly ball today, but where were you in BP today in branding practice? You weren't shagging out there like you always do. What happened today? And that's kind of what we talked about earlier, where that battle of just trying to win the day. Do what I have to do today to get better and to be prepared so I don't get nervous in the game and I don't feel pressure and I can just know like, hey man, I messed up in the game, but hey, I was there early today and I worked out, and that's how you kind of earn the respect of your teammates.
So did that experience help you become a leader in future teams? Because I was reading an article and it talked about you, the 8th or 9th season you had, and part of what was attractive to, and I can't remember if it was Arizona or whoever, what the team was hiring you at that point or bringing you on, but part of what they talked about was attractive was you being a leader in the locker room and you helping some of the younger guys and mentor through it. Do you believe that World Series experience, or what parts of that experience helped you allowed to become a leader later down the road? Was there some learnings you had that during that are worth sharing to talk about how you became a leader later?
Yeah, well, just everything. Just seeing, it was really cool. And at that time, we'd have a big team meeting before the playoffs started. Yeah. And it was just players and, and coaches and, guys would just talk about what helped them, during this thing. And, I'll never forget Mark McGuire just talked about breathing. Like, hey, breathe. And then you're thinking about like, yeah, of course I'm going to breathe. But no, like truly breathe and like truly be there and get in the moment and breathe and control your breath. And when you go out there, you'll be able to do, everything you need to do. And, just guys were just, sharing with just different advice and stuff like that. But for me, just watching, if you watch a dugout, if you watch, the football sidelines, and you'll see when somebody messes up, you'll see that one guy that comes over and it's like, hey, man, get the next one and you're going to make a big play. And then when it does happen, it's like, wow, that was awesome. Like, I really needed that. So I got to see a lot of examples of that. And, Tony Russo was great with that as well, our coaching staff. Yeah. So, those are little things that, like I said, it helped me to the point where I'm at now. And then also, I always said, like, I want to help people. I really want people, I want to make, the world a better place. And in my profession, in my sport, it's just by helping these guys, like, be better. Like, we might be competing, we might be on the same position, but I'm going to help you as much as I can. Why? Because I want to win a championship. So to get back to that, I saw that firsthand where we used our entire 25-man roster to win a championship. From a guy that threw one inning to a guy that got one hit the whole playoff series to a guy that made a play defensively. And I saw just how important the whole team is from, top to bottom of an organization and a roster and how important that is. So, that's something that I've always tried to do is just try to make sure that everyone is on the same page. And sometimes it's easier than other times, and then the times you kind of see you see when it's easier than other times. You see the results where guys really click and they're able to maximize their potential for sure.
And then I'll get off this topic. I'm just curious on it. So what made that cohesive nature of the team as you're talking about, where everybody up and down the roster really felt like they were an important role and really wanted to help each other out? Because as I look at baseball or any pro sports, but this isn't any business, egos get so much in the way. And as I look at a lot of times with teams, especially in baseball teams, sometimes it's not better to have a bunch of stars that are competing for certain. It's better to have some consistent role players that are going to lead to more success. And I don't know if there's any numerics or quants behind that or not, but can you just talk a little bit about what led to that? Was it the coaching staff that drove it? Was it a matter of just some of the player leaders, captains inside the locker room that made the difference? Do you think it was the scouting and was done and kind of putting it together a team that that they knew that would go together? Was it just kind of all the right things happened at the right time? If you kind of had to talk about that cohesive nature that you're describing, what's some of the lessons that we might be able to learn from that?
Yeah, the first thing is, everyone needs to be on the same page. I mean, that's the thing I've seen on organizations that are successful. Everyone's on the same page where, you can take constructive criticism. There isn't that ego of like, well, you're telling me this and, I'm going to do this way. And that's where things kind of get separated. So I think that's the biggest thing is where, you have that cohesiveness and everyone is in things for the right reason. Everyone has different goals with things. You might be worried about, mortgages or, kids' schools or just different things. But, we all don't understand that. But as long as it's all about the team, like, hey, my biggest thing is for the team to succeed, and that's what it's going to take. And to win championships in sports organizations, like any other business, it starts from the scouts that are in the Dominican Republic and Venezuela to the guys that are, behind the scenes, doing analytics things. So, and it takes that perfect combination to really, get everything going. Then it takes the roster, and then it takes the players on there. So there's so much that goes behind, and I think that's the thing when you look back at the championship season is really looking back and like, man, wow, our scouts did a great job of acquiring these guys at the break, and wow, what a pickup it was on this trade, and just different things that happen throughout the year that really that give you the flexibility to win a championship. And you look back and it's like, wow, it takes the whole entire organization, like I said, with the whole entire roster, from coaches, from everything, and then that's where you really see it pay off.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think there's the appreciation that you have for all those different roles is the part that kind of stands out to me as you're talking, because you appreciate all the different aspects of what led to a winning team, which is part of the reason everybody gets a ring, right? No matter if you're front office or back office, I think pro teams realize that it's that aspect to it. So I'm glad you're able to describe it. Let me ask a couple lighter questions, then I want to talk a little bit about the future. As soon as you hit the big leagues, you got a decent check, started making some money. What was the first thing you purchased? I hear you're a sneakerhead, so it might have been that or that. But tell me, what was the first purchase you did?
Sneakers. I honestly, I was always into sneakers a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
actually, we have a friend in common, Scott Drucker. Actually, told me
cool.
that.
Nice. So I guess like my first big purchase would be a condo in 2011.
Okay.
When I saved money up, and that was my goal. Was like, I want to get a condo on the beach. And I was able to do that. So that was kind of like my big one, where my first purchase. I tried to live the same. I drove the same car from college until 3 years in the big leagues. I had the same exact car. Nice. And so I wasn't worried about a car and all that. So my thing was saving money so I can get a condo for sure.
Nice. So then talk about I think it's a misconceived notion that athletes don't do and make good decisions with their money, because there's a lot that do, and a lot have been successful. The bankrupt ones are a lot smaller group than the ones that are not. Talk about a bad investment or a good investment you might have made in these 10 years in your
that's
thing.
Simple. I made an investment in a water company probably like 8 years ago. Yeah. But, it was a small investment. Things didn't come to fruition. Yeah. And I just got to learn a lot about, things we talked about, communication, just getting on the same page. And, you can have a great product, you can have a great, everything, but you need a great team to execute everything. You need, just all these little things that need to go on. And, the way I've always looked at it is like I learned, I learned a lot on stuff that's helped me now in the future. So that was definitely one that, I got excited right away. I'm like, oh, this is going to work because of this and this and this. And yeah, let's do this. And, I was young then. I was still in making league minimum. Yeah. And I was in an arbitration yet where I can, get a bigger chunk of a salary. And it was something where like, all right, this is going to be my one investment for the year. I'm going to roll with it. And, but I got a lot of life lessons from that, and I learned a lot from that. I remember the first time somebody approached me about investment and how sexy it sounded. And now, investing in a number of different businesses and being in financial services, you start to realize part of our job is to make every investment sound sexy. So it takes a while to realize and really start to dissect is it a good team behind it, which I think is one of the largest pieces I look at in companies I'm involved with is their leadership team, because it could be a great business, it could be a great concept, they could be well capitalized, but if they don't have a good leadership team in place, it's probably not going to work out. So it's good you learned that lesson early. Yeah, invest in people. You invest in the people. That's right. So talk about the where you're thinking about the next phase. You had 10 years in as a pro. I'm sure at some point you're thinking that there might be another step to your career on it. Where do you kind of see yourself in the next 10 years? Yeah, so Yeah, that's a good one because it's all over the place. But no, the first thing is, I want to play baseball as long as I can.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I'm done, I want to go back to school. I got a year left to pursue my business management degree with a minor in marketing.
Nice.
So in baseball, the way it works is, you get drafted as a junior, so you have to leave a year early. So it's one of my biggest pet peeves is when, people ask me like, "Oh, you got to finish school." It's like, listen, when I signed, I had a year left. Like I was on time to graduate, everything was fine. But our season, I've had to do what I had to do for my career. But I'm gonna finish one day, so I'm really looking forward to that. And then after that, just continuing to just help. I could see myself having, career as a coach, and hope with aspirations of managing or joining a front office, or I've been heavily involved with the players union for my whole career. So I've attended executive board meetings. I've been involved just with everything that goes on behind that. So I've been really, I've got a lot of. I was able to get good experience on really how businesses work and corporations and stuff like that through understanding how baseball works.
Yeah.
And so that's another thing, maybe take the agent route maybe. So, they're just different things. I'm into real estate. I have a small portfolio of some rentals stuff that I've done. So I'm definitely interested in that as well. And then another big thing for me, which I'm actually doing right now, as we speak, is I'm establishing my foundation. Hopefully I'll be able to announce that, in 2021. But I had a bowling event for about 8 years in Miami, and then got time with kids and just different things going on where we kind of slowed down with that. Still trying to do charity things. I'm hosting a toy drive in St. Louis and in Miami for this year for 2020.
Yeah.
But next year I'm really looking forward to establishing the foundation and being able to impact the Miami community, the St. Louis community, which has been big for me, and I still have a home there as well. So I'm really looking forward to doing that, and then just kind of seeing where everything takes me with I've been lucky to meet a lot of people throughout the years in so many different industries, from marketing companies and different things. But I'm really into marketing. Marketing is what I really like, and so I can see myself just doing a whole bunch of different things and just.
Talk about what attributes that you think you learned through baseball, even if it was back to when you were a kid through the professional leagues, that you think will translate well to your next phase of life.
I think the biggest thing is the teamwork aspect, and just having discipline. My workouts every day. I have a family. I get up early. I get my workouts done. I hang out with the family, and then if the kids are in school, try to spend time with my wife. If she's doing some errands or whatnot, then I can take some time for myself. So, I kind of I think that's a skill set that a lot of people go wrong with is managing their time.
Yeah.
So that's one, and then also just different experiences. Being able to go to different cities and figure out ways on how to get the team together by having dinners and just in business having coworkers and spending time to really get to know them and see what gets them to click, and just different things behind the psychology of why things work out in businesses and teams.
Yeah.
So that's something I feel like I've had there's no degree on that, but I think I've had a great experience with that through my baseball career.
And you've done a really good job kind of balancing life with family, with being on the road a lot. Do you have a favorite away city, by the way?
Oh, man, I like a lot of the major cities out there. I like Los Angeles.
It's a very political
Chicago,
answer.
New York. But no, honestly, it's great. It's funny because sometimes we'll travel to cities where, I might tell a buddy, like, oh, I'm going to this city. And they're like, oh, what are you going to do in that city? It's like, but it's been cool over the years. I've like literally every city I go to, I have a breakfast spot, a lunch spot, a spot I can go to for dinner. Or,
that's awesome.
If I'm not playing and I want to get away and see a sneaker store, so I try to really, take advantage of the traveling, and we get to stay in great hotels, and we're so spoiled with a lot of things we do. So I just try to take advantage of that.
So talk a little bit about the balance side, because you've also done a good job giving back. You talked about your bowling piece, but you grew up kind of going to the Boys and Girls Club early on, and it seems like giving back, and you're talking about the foundation that you might be starting next year, is a piece of it. But you're also a very involved dad, and you're figuring out how to balance of staying in shape. We were talking before the show that you're getting up at 4:30, getting 4 hours of workouts before the kids are even kind of cranking, so you can be able to spend time with the kids and the family afterwards while you're trying to balance all the different pieces you're doing. Talk how you keep that balance of still giving back, but also business, profession, sports, keep an athlete and family. And you talked about kind of your schedule. How do you keep that balance with everything?
It's just a busy day. But no, I think the biggest thing though is prioritizing for me is family. My wife sacrifices so much for me during the season and just does an incredible job with my kids. And so in the off season, it's like it's time for dad's home, and So I try to help as much as I can with what I can and all that. Emptying the dishwasher, just doing laundry, whatever the case may be, where I can
Yeah.
kind of give some free time. But that's my biggest priority. And then, there's times where I guess my biggest struggle I would say is, just sometimes I have to postpone things with people and be like, hey man, I can't. I got to see the kids. I got to do that. So sometimes I want to get business stuff done, earlier than I would like, but. It is what it is, but my main priority is my family. Making sure my family's all right, spending time with them. Then also my profession. I know my core business is baseball. So all these other things are great on the side, but if I'm not playing baseball, then it's that's what gets me to that point. And early in my career, when I wasn't making, I wasn't in arbitration and I wasn't a free agent and all that, I would always kind of think of like, all right, I just made league minimum for a whole year. That's great, but like, what if I was hurt next year and I was done? Like, what business is gonna start? And I'd go behind the scenes be working on all these things, and then I kind of started figuring out, all right, I have all these great ideas, but the common denominator is like, I need a horse. I need someone to go out there and lead all these things. And now I'm getting to that point where through my experiences, like I said, through the water company, through having ideas when I was younger, I have a vision on how I want to do things. And now I'm just really working on connecting dots of people that have really helped me get to the point I am, brands, companies, friends.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, how can we get together and help both of us grow? And myself is putting myself out there in that business world, but just really putting myself out there now, where I have been involved in things, but it was kind of low key and under the radar. But now I'm really wanting to step forward and put myself in that position.
Nice. Well, congratulations on the 10 years in the league. That's been a fun conversation. I think from a business perspective, I learned a bunch about how important the team, the culture can actually lead to driving results. And I enjoyed that part of the conversation, but it was fun talking, man.
All right, thanks for
Yeah.
having me.
You got it, dude.
Thank you for watching the Upreneur podcast, and don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe, and share this with anybody who you think needs to hear it.